Taewong Service began as a small group and expanded into a larger organization through multiple uprisings. Taewong Service lived up to its name as the largest gang in the Republic of Korea. It started as a loan business and then expanded into a construction business. Afterward, they broadened their reach to hotels, resorts, casinos, and various entertainment enterprises. Their criminal business bureau extended its operations to many branches due to their strong influence. However, suddenly, the first chairman, Guillaume Taiho, passed away. His successor's position drew everyone's attention in the criminal world, and his successor was a man known to be his right-hand man. His name was Baek Gang-hoon, recruited by Guillaume Taiho himself during Baek Gang-hoon's high school days. After joining Taewong Service, Baek Gang-hoon forcefully shut down their competitors and led the group's expansion. In the end, Yaksha Baek Gang-hoon became the second chairman of the group and earned the title of boss of a nationwide organization. In his school days, Baek Gang-hoon stood at a height of 189 centimeters and his weight was 108 kilograms. He inherited his exceptional physique and strength from his basketball player mother and a judo champion father. For most of his childhood, he never lived his life as prey. Fighting came easy to him, and fear was unusual for him. It was said that he was born to live a life of violence. One day, Guillaume Taiho personally recruited him after witnessing him deal with a rival gang. After joining Taewong Service, Baek Gang-hoon started a family with his high school friend Su Jung. After some time, he went to prison for his boss, just as he was settling into the criminal world. His house was invaded one day during a fight between the groups. On that day, he lost his dear wife Su Jung, and losing her made him go berserk. He unconsciously raged, and by the time he regained consciousness, their competitive gang had already been destroyed. This was the time when he became the second in command of the group, and later on, he became the leader of the group. Looking back at it, his life was just like that of an Asura. But in the present, he wasn't sure why he was thinking about his past. All of a sudden, he looked to his side to find out that he had been stabbed with a knife. It turned out that his life was flashing before his eyes, which was why he was remembering everything that had transpired in the past. Baek Gang-hoon asked his lackey why he had stabbed him. The lackey was crying and couldn't muster up the courage to answer his boss. Finally, the lackey apologized, and signs of life started to fade from Baek Gang-hoon's eyes. He fell to the ground, wondering if this was the end and whether he could finally meet his wife, Su Jung. With that thought in mind, Baek Gang-hoon closed his eyes. Suddenly, lightning struck in the distance, causing Baek Gang-hoon to wake up. He was certain that he had just died, but it turned out he was in school. He was in complete shock, trying to figure out what was going on. His teacher seemed scared and suggested that maybe Baek Gang-hoon was just tired. Gang-hoon quickly checked his stomach and found no stab wound there. He rushed out of the classroom, leaving the entire class a bit shocked, and the teacher muttered that Gang-hoon didn't care about the class at all. Gang-hoon didn't care if it was all a dream. He needed to see with his own eyes. He opened the door to another classroom, causing the whole class to wonder what he was doing there. There was a red-haired girl in the class, the one Baek Gang-hoon had been looking for. Baek Gang-hoon went over to the girl and called out her name, only to discover that she was Su Jung. Baek Gang-hoon became extremely happy upon realizing that she was still alive, and he dropped to his knees. He thanked God for saving her, cried, apologized, and finally called her honey. This shocked the entire class, leading them to believe that maybe Su Jung was the girlfriend of this man. Su Jung was also in shock because it was their first time seeing each other. Baek Gang-hoon didn't care about what she had just said. This was another chance, and he wasn't going to lose her for the second time. The next day, Baek Gang-hoon confirmed that he had indeed returned to his past self, which was a blessing in disguise. He was determined to change his life and stay away from violence. On the very same day, while Gang-hoon was in class, someone grabbed him by the hair. It turned out to be another hefty bully who was looking for Gang-hoon. The bully claimed that Gang-hoon was an arrogant freshman, and that he was there to teach him a lesson. Without a second thought, Baek Gang-hoon punched the bully in the face, delivering a powerful blow that sent the bully flying out of the classroom. The lackeys of the fat bully were in complete shock. When Gang-hoon came back to his senses, he was shocked at what he had just done. On the same day, the bullies summoned Gang-hoon to the rooftop. It turned out that they had called their senior to teach a lesson to Baek Gang-hoon. The senior told Gang-hoon to show some respect. as his senior was there to set him straight. Gang-hoon remembered this guy. His name was Jung Tae-sik, and he had been the strongest guy in the school before Gang-hoon arrived. In the past, Jung Tae-sik had called him to the rooftop, and Gang-hoon had beaten him badly. But this time, he decided to play it cool. Jung Tae-sik approached him and instructed him to show respect for his upperclassmen. Jung Tae-sik performed a kuchi on Gang-hoon's face. Gang-hoon was seething with anger, but instead of fighting back, he bowed down and apologized to his senior. He explained to Jung Tae-sik that he didn't know the guy was his upperclassman and had swung his fist without realizing it. He sincerely asked for their forgiveness. Jung Tae-sik turned to the fat bully and asked if this newbie had been so polite back then. The fat bully admitted that he hadn't, and suggested that maybe Gang-hoon had become scared after encountering Jung Tae-sik. In his mind, Gang-hoon thought he had done the right thing, and this should be enough. Nothing would change if he continued on his path of violence. This was the point where he decided to start anew and live a different life. Jung Tae-sik forgave him, saying that everyone makes mistakes, and he should make sure to show respect to seniors next time. Gang-hoon was relieved as he realized he no longer needed to resort to violence to solve this problem. However, suddenly, Jung Tae-sik mentioned that he had heard Gang-hoon had a girlfriend and knew that Gang-hoon had called her honey in front of her entire class. Jung Tae-sik asked about the extent of their relationship and suggested that Gang-hoon should introduce her to him sometime since he was skilled in erotic stuff. Gang-hoon quickly grabbed Jung Tae-sik by his collar and lifted him up using his bare hands. He warned Jung Tae-sik, telling him to listen carefully. Gang-hoon cautioned him, saying that he would be dead if he got anywhere near Su Jung. He further warned him by saying, "You better remember it unless you want to take a dive into the ocean with concrete shoes and an extra hole in your stomach." Jung Tae-sik began struggling to free himself from Gang-hoon's grip. Suddenly, Gang-hoon snapped back to reality and calmed down. He had almost lost his cool and acted violently. Once again, he apologized to Jung, but Jung responded that this time, Gang-hoon had gone too far, and it was too late for an apology. Jung further told him that there was no saving him now, he was done for. Gang-hoon agreed with Jung, admitting that it might indeed be too late to resolve this peacefully. As Gang-hoon got his fist ready, he stated that he would become a new person starting tomorrow. In the future, Su Jung informed Gang-hoon that he had been really scary back in their school days. She mentioned that he had been very popular, but not in a good way. People avoided him in the hallways and went to great lengths to avoid making eye contact with him. Su Jung admitted that she had been one of those people. Gang-hoon told his wife that back in those days, he had thought everyone was nice to him, and they even bought snacks for him for free. He mentioned that if he had known they would get married in the future, he would have proposed to her during their school days. However, Su Jung countered by saying she wouldn't have accepted his proposal because she couldn't even make eye contact with him. In the present, Gang-hoon stopped Su Jung to say hello to her. She replied with a hesitant greeting. Su Jung was carrying a lot of stuff, so Gang-hoon offered to help her out. Su Jung was initially hesitant to accept help from the former bully, and Gang-hoon sensed her discomfort. He realized he needed to approach her slowly. Su Jung hesitantly asked him about why he had come to her class and said those things. Gang-hoon thought that she wouldn't believe the truth, so he made up an excuse claiming that he had fallen asleep in class and had a dream. When he woke up, he couldn't differentiate between the dream and reality. Su Jung responded by questioning his decision to sleep during a class, and Gang-hoon turned the tables by asking if she never slept during class. He added that he had heard rumors about some dangerous guys in the area, which was why he had offered to walk her home. Su Jung told Gang-hoon that he didn't need to worry because it was still bright outside, though she wanted to say that he was the most dangerous guy around. Gang-hoon suggested that perhaps she was uncomfortable showing him where she lived. Su Jung assured him not to be disappointed and instead suggested he walk her to her mom's restaurant. Gang-hoon became overly excited and blurted out that his mother-in-law's soup was really nice. Su Jung became a bit confused and asked how he knew about her mom's soup. Gang-hoon quickly replied that he had eaten it in his dream. Gang-hoon then asked if her mom was at the restaurant right now, and he started fixing his hair, as it had been a while since he had seen her. This flustered Su Jung even more. She informed Gang-hoon that her mother would arrive at the restaurant later, and right now, her brother was there. Gang-hoon was taken aback when he heard about her brother. Su Jung explained that she had a younger brother, and Gang-hoon thought that this time, he would get to see her younger brother in his youth, as he had been the man Gang-hoon trusted the most in his past life. After some time, They arrived at the restaurant, and Su Jung's younger brother welcomed his sister. It turned out that this person was the same one who had stabbed Gang-hoon to death in his past life, and his name was Lee Hyun. Lee Hyun had a knife in his hands, which made Gang-hoon fearful as it reminded him of his past life. However, Lee Hyun appeared to be peeling an apple and offered it to Gang-hoon. Gang-hoon said he wanted to eat it, but asked Lee Hyun to put the knife down first. It turned out that Lee Hyun already knew about Gang-hoon and was a huge fan of his. He was having a fan moment and revealed that in their past life, Gang-hoon had met Lee Hyun before meeting Su Jung. When Hyun entered high school, he approached Gang-hoon and requested that Gang-hoon become his boss. At that time, Gang-hoon was enjoying a high life with his bullies. Hyun requested Gang-hoon to accept him as his brother and promised to follow all of his orders. Gang-hoon, without saying a word, put down his cigarette, and then he slapped Hyun so hard that his glasses flew far away. Hyun was in pain and shivering, and Gang-hoon told him not to overreact since he had only hit him once. Gang-hoon further asked why he should take care of someone who couldn't even handle a single hit, and what he would get in return for protecting Hyun. Hyun quickly reached into his pocket and pulled out a letter, handing it over to Gang-hoon. The piece of paper contained Hyun's grades, revealing that he was in the first position in his class. Gang-hoon congratulated him on his good marks, and Hyun explained that he was good at studying and considered himself quite smart. He believed that he could be helpful to Gang-hoon, although he wasn't sure how just yet. Gang-hoon asked him how he could be helpful, and Hyun replied that he didn't know for now but would figure it out when the time came. Gang-hoon burst into laughter at this seemingly ridiculous response, but he found Hyun amusing and decided to keep him around. Hyun became Gang-hoon's trusted advisor, the brains behind their criminal operations, and the only person Gang-hoon truly trusted. However, one day, for some unknown reason, Hyun stabbed Gang-hoon to death, and he was crying as he did it. Gang-hoon was certain that Hyun didn't act on his own intention, and that someone else was behind it. After Gang-hoon fell, Hyun called someone named Boss Nam, and informed him that he had taken care of Gang-hoon. Suddenly, Gang-hoon woke up and knew that Boss Nam was the mastermind behind the attack. Boss Nam had competed with Gang-hoon for the title of the new boss, and he was his rival. Boss Nam cared little for ethics as long as the job got done, and it made sense that he used Hyun for the task because Gang-hoon only allowed Hyun to get close to him. In the present, some high school students were a bit shocked by something they saw. Gang-hoon was waiting for someone at the school entrance. He believed that if they had used Hyun to kill him, then the one behind Su Jung's death might also be Boss Nam. Gang-hoon had come to the school to find Boss Nam because he was certain that he had graduated from there. Suddenly, a bully approached Gang-hoon and asked him what he was doing in front of their school. The bully kept asking questions, but Gang-hoon realized that this person wasn't Boss Nam. Gang-hoon requested that the bully bring someone named Nam Jungan to him. The bully asserted that he was the boss there, and that no one would come or go just because Gang-hoon said so. He even threatened to send Gang-hoon to heaven. Gang-hoon clarified that he wasn't there to fight and intended to leave after meeting Nam Jungan. The bully prepared to teach him a lesson, but his attack was slow. Gang-hoon, despite his intention to avoid violence, found himself acting on instinct and punched the bully with incredible force. Gang-hoon apologized to the bully, explaining that he didn't want to punch him and his body had moved on its own. One of the lackeys of the bully instructed Gang-hoon to follow him. After following them, Gang-hoon beat up the underlings of the bullies. Later, the lackey brought their big boss to Gang-hoon, who asked about his identity. This person turned out to be Boss Nam, and it was revealed that Nam Jungan is a girl. Jungan was quite upset with Gang-hoon for causing trouble with her underlings. She asked him why he was looking for her. Out of nowhere, Gang-hoon extended his hand for a handshake, which confused all the bullies. Gang-hoon introduced himself and said, "It's nice to meet you, Jungan." Jungan slapped his hand away and told him to stop the nonsense. She asked him what he was doing there. Gang-hoon replied that he had something important to discuss. He shouted that he wanted to talk about their future. Jungan questioned which future he was talking about since they had never met before. Gang-hoon was thinking that if Boss Nam Jungan used Hyun to kill him in the future, then he needed to change Jungan to alter the future. Gang-hoon pointed toward her bag and asked if she didn't have a knife in it. Jungan pulled the knife out and pointed it at Gang-hoon's neck, informing him that the knife was already in her hand, not the bag. Gang-hoon thought that Jungan had fast hands. Jungan asked Gang-hoon if he wanted an extra breathing hole in his neck. Gang-hoon remembered that in his past life, Boss Nam Jungan was fast and highly skilled with tools. Anyone who underestimated her because she was a female, ended up dead due to her skills. Just then, a teacher interrupted their meeting and noticed the knife in Jungan's hand. Jungan told the teacher that they were outside the school. Gang-hoon suggested that they end it for now, promising to return soon. He shouted that they could live a better life in the future and that he wouldn't give up on her. Jungan became flustered after hearing this and started blushing. She couldn't listen any further and swung her knife towards Gang-hoon, cutting his face. The next morning, someone slammed Gang-hoon awake early. It turned out to be his dad, who was angry with him for sleeping so late. His dad warned him to quickly get up and eat, or he would punish him even more. Gang-hoon promised to be a good kid from now on, and his dad's handprint remained on his back. Gang-hoon's dad was puzzled by his son's sudden compliance, as he had been a disobedient kid before. His dad couldn't understand what had changed and found it unsettling. It was revealed that Gang-hoon's father had been the best judo player, but had to end his career due to an unexpected injury. During his rehabilitation, he met Gang-hoon's mom, and they got married. His mom became pregnant a few months later. Gang-hoon's dad gave up on his rehab and his chance to return to being a player to raise his son after Gang-hoon's mom passed away during childbirth. In the end, Gang-hoon had grown up to become a high school bully, a huge disappointment to his father. In the present, Gang-hoon's father warned him not to engage in sports and to stay focused, cautioning him to resist anyone trying to lead him down a dark path. His father warned him a second time, and Gang-hoon replied with a yes. His father was shocked by the sudden change in his son's behavior, as he had never seen him act so well-behaved before. In his past life, Gang-hoon's father had always worried about him, and he had passed away with those concerns. But now, his father was alive, and Gang-hoon was determined to change his future. Another day of non-violence began. Meanwhile, young Taesik got punched in the stomach by another bully. This person turned out to be another bully, and he hit Taesik with all his force while other onlookers watched. The bullies asked Taesik if he wasn't ashamed of getting beaten up by a freshman, but Taesik insisted that he hadn't been beaten. Their leader told him that it didn't matter whether he had been beaten or not. The rumors were already circulating that he had. More importantly, the name of their group, the Union, was tarnished because of him. Taesik apologized and offered to handle the situation, but their leader instructed him to stay out of it. The bully leader directed his followers to recruit some useful allies from various schools to teach the freshmen a lesson. He ordered them to find out the freshmen's weakness because they were planning to exact a severe punishment. After a few days, Gang-hoon was walking Su Jung to her home, and she thanked him for visiting their store. She also informed him that her brother couldn't stop talking about Gang-hoon even after he had left the store. Her brother greatly admired Gang-hoon for his strength and his ability to protect those close to him. This conversation reminded Gang-hoon of one of his meetings with Hyun in the past. Hyun had shared that he never had a father, and his mother ran a restaurant. When he was young, he used to eat, do his homework, and play by himself. There were times when rude customers came to their restaurant, including one drunken and ill-tempered customer. Hyun had become angry at people being disrespectful to his mom, but fear had always held him back. He despised himself for not being able to do anything, and always wished he were bigger and stronger to protect his mom. One day, while he was in middle school, Hyun saw Gang-hoon in the middle of the street, the kind of person he had always wanted to become. Gang-hoon asked him if that was why he had kneeled down and asked to join him, to which Hyun replied with a yes. Back in the present, Su Jung told Gang-hoon that she had never seen her brother so happy since their dad had passed away. Gang-hoon jokingly suggested that if she was truly thankful, she should buy him a meal, but he would pay for it, and she just needed to eat with him. Meanwhile, the gang leader asked his lackey if they had assembled the right people, and the lackey confirmed that they had recruited the best guys. They had enlisted someone known as the Dentist from Hosang High School, famous for breaking the front teeth of anyone who fought him. They had also recruited Kim Tae-hoon the Hammer, known for punches as strong as a hammer, and tap dancer Young Hyun-jae, renowned for melting opponents with his speed. They had gathered other famous bullies from various schools as well. The lackey reported that they had rounded up all the renowned bullies among the first-year students, earning praise from their leader. The leader mentioned that even if the police got involved, they could claim it was a settling of ranks among bullies. The lackey added that if anything went wrong, their leader's father could take care of it. The leader inquired if the lackey thought his father was the one in charge of the union, and the lackey apologized for the misunderstanding. The leader instructed the lackey to ensure that Gang-hoon was taken care of to prevent any interference with their union in the future. Later that day, Gang-hoon was enthusiastically devouring his food, while Su Jung sat beside him, looking a bit surprised. Gang-hoon asked Su Jung why she wasn't eating, and Su Jung replied, "I was just thinking, you eat a lot. How many burgers have you had?" Gang-hoon chuckled and said that most average guys eat as much as he does. Su Jung mentioned that her brother Hyun could barely finish one burger, to which Gang-hoon responded, "Well, Hyun is a special case," and continued eating. Su Jung pointed out that maybe it was because of their size difference and encouraged Gang-hoon to slow down, saying, "I'm not going anywhere. It's nice to see you enjoying your meal." This brought back memories of his past life when they were having dinner together. Later, as they were heading back at night, Gang-hoon asked Su Jung if she wanted him to walk her home. She replied that Hyun would be coming to pick her up. After a while, Hyun appeared before them, looking excited. He reassured Gang-hoon not to worry, and Gang-hoon advised them to be careful. Hyun then invited Gang-hoon to have a meal with him, offering to pay, and Gang-hoon accepted the invitation. Afterward, as Gang-hoon walked back home, he was called out by someone. He turned to see two bullies, one of whom introduced himself as the dentist, Gwangpyo. Gang-hoon questioned how he could be a dentist since he was a high schooler, and Gwangpyo boasted that anyone who crossed him lost their teeth. Suddenly, someone grabbed Gang-hoon from behind, holding him firmly. Gang-hoon struggled against the grip, but found himself at a disadvantage. The dentist instructed the other bully to keep a tight hold on Gang-hoon. Gang-hoon had let his guard down while talking, and they took advantage of it. The other bully, known as the Hammer, delivered a powerful punch to Gang-hoon's face, causing blood to flow from his mouth. The Hammer commented that Gang-hoon wasn't putting up much of a fight. Gang-hoon tried to reason with them, suggesting that there might be a misunderstanding, and they could resolve their differences without violence. The Hammer replied that Gang-hoon was too easy, and that they didn't even need insurance. Gang-hoon was puzzled by the mention of insurance, and had no idea what they were talking about. The dentist explained that they had split into two groups just to be safe, and it turned out the other group had gone after Su Jung and Hyun. Hyun nervously brandished the knife he had pulled from his pocket to defend himself, although even his sister Su Jung was concerned about him resorting to a knife during a fistfight. One of the bullies taunted him, questioning why a nerd like him was carrying a knife, and they pointed out his trembling hands. They were aware that Hyun was scared, and they began to laugh at him. Suddenly, a voice called out to Hyun from behind, chastising him for his improper knife-holding technique. The person who spoke turned out to be Nam Jungan, and the bullies were already familiar with her. She inquired about their current actions, momentarily silencing them. Jungan noticed that the girl in front of her was wearing the same uniform as Gang-hoon. One of the bullies attempted to dismiss Jungan, telling her not to interfere and to mind her own business. Jungan, however, had given them a chance to leave peacefully and was not inclined to let them off easily. Two of the bullies decided they had had enough and rushed towards Jungan. Jungan effortlessly evaded the first bully's punch, then grabbed his hand and struck the joint, causing him to scream in pain as his arm fractured. Jungan glanced back at Hyun, which left him shocked. She then prepared to kick the knife out of his hand, but he managed to evade her slashing attempt, albeit with a cut to his shirt. Both bullies were taken aback by Jungan's swift and skilled movements. The second bully tried to flee but collided with an unexpected obstacle, Gang-hoon. Furious that they had gone after Su Jung, Gang-hoon punched the second bully in the face, sending him crashing to the ground. The third bully, who had been watching the chaos unfold, was petrified. Gang-hoon's gaze fixed on him, intensifying his fear. With the matter of the bullies settled, Su Jung expressed her gratitude to Jungan for saving them, although Jungan was not particularly interested in receiving thanks. She cautioned Gang-hoon to be vigilant in the future, as these three bullies hailed from different schools, indicating that members of the union were after him. Gang-hoon questioned whether Jungan was part of the union, to which she replied with a resounding no, and explained that there was an annoying guy within the union. Gang-hoon was intrigued by Jungan's mention of Seo Min-jae, but before he could inquire further, she began to leave. However, he stopped her and expressed his belief that violence was bad, suggesting that they should both try to become better people together. Jungin seemed taken aback by Gang-hoon's unexpected stance against violence. That night, as Gang-hoon reflected on the events that had transpired, he remembered how he had effortlessly thrown the bully who was holding him, causing the red-haired bully to collide with the hammer-wielding one. Even the dentist, who had intended to perform a fist surgery on Gang-hoon's teeth, had ended up getting punched in the face. Gang-hoon had felt a sense of power and enjoyment in his younger body during the confrontation. Despite his earlier resolution to avoid violence, Gang-hoon found himself considering whether he could truly escape it, and whether using violence might be the solution to his problems. Meanwhile, Yoongan realized that she had forgotten to mention something important to Gang-hoon. While she had told him about Seo Min-jae, the real threat lurked elsewhere, and she needed to make Gang-hoon aware of it.